Hi students, I welcome you all to today's English class. Today we will be learning about the third element, lessons learned from Chipko, Beyond Monoculture, from the article Everything I Need to Know I Learned in the Forest. So in our previous class, we learnt about Vandana Shiva's family background and about her ecological growth, what all she learned. Now, today in this session, we will learn how she transforms her learning into practical way of saving the environment. So here she says the problem is not just to go beyond monoculture. So if you just go beyond monoculture, you're not going to save any problems which is related to agriculture and environment. So what is monoculture? Cultivation of a single crop in a given area. She says just by going beyond these monocultures will not solve the problem. There are much deeper problems which she addresses. She says that from the Chipko, she's learned about biodiversity and biodiversity based living economies. So, biodiversity here is a variety of plants and animal life in the whole world. Biodiversity based living economies refers to economic power resides sustaining healthy community life and natural way of life. So she says protecting these two has become her life's mission. She wants to protect both the biodiversity as well as biodiversity based living economies. And secondly, here she addresses the main problem of this biodiversity. So, in her book Monocultures of Mind, which was published in 1993, she addresses the failure to understand biodiversity. So, what is this failure to understand biodiversity? Is what she addresses in this book. And she says that the root of this is the improvisionment of nature and culture, meaning loss of wealth, process of becoming poor in quality and productiveness both in nature and culture. That is the root problem why we are not able to understand biodiversity. And all this is addressed in her book Monocultures of Mind. So what is the problem? The problem here is loss of wealth, process of becoming poor in quality, very poor in quality, and also productiveness. There is no quality and there is no productiveness both in nature as well as culture. So the lessons which she learned about diversity in the Himalayan forest, about the biodiversity, she wants to transfer all her learning into the protection of biodiversity in her farms. So she started saving seeds from farmers, from different farmers in fields, and then she realized that she needs one farm where she can start her demonstration and training, where she can save different variety of seeds. That is when she starts Navadanya farm in the year 1994 in Doon Valley, which is located in the lower elevation Himalayan region of Uttarakhand province. And today in this Navadanya farm, Navadanya is 9 seeds, Navadanya, 9 different variety of seeds. So she names it Navadanya farm. So in this farm today, they conserve and grow 630 varieties of rice, 150 varieties of wheat, and hundreds of other spices and species. All are existing and growing and conserving in this Navadanya farm. So here in this farm, they practice and promote biodiversity intensive form of farming that produces more food and nutrition per acre. So here in this farm, she is practicing and promoting the biodiversity intensive form of farming where she produces more food, not only more food, more nutrition food per acre of land. So in one acre of land, she is able to produce more food, more nutrition based food. And she says the conservation of biodiversity is therefore also the answer to the food and the nutrition crisis. The more you conserve, the biodiversity, the more you try to save these varieties of seeds, it can become the answer to the food and nutrition crisis which people are suffering worldwide. So she says Navadanya, the movement of biodiversity conservation and organic farming, which was started in the year 1987, is spreading across the world rapidly. Here she says that she's worked with farmers to set more than 100 community seed banks across India. So, what is this seed banks? We have heard about banks where we can go and save money. But what is the seed banks? Here, she has established banks where she has been saving a lot of seeds for the future generation. So, 100 community seed banks are opened across India uh, to just save seeds. So Vandana Shiva has set up these banks across India, and they have saved more than 3,000 varieties of rice and different varieties of wheat and different varieties of seeds in this particular seed bank. And here she has also helped the farmers to make a transition, that is, change or a period of change from one state to another state. So she's helped the farmers to make a transition, a shift from fossil fuels and chemical based monocultures to biodiverse ecological system of nourishment by the sun and the soil. Here, fossil fuels are sources of energy that are formed from the accumulation or which is accumulated by the remains of living organisms that were buried millions of years ago. So, examples of this fossil fuels are coal, oil, natural gases, etc. So, effects of fossil fuels release a large amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So, that is why she helps these farmers to make a shift, a transition from fossil fuels and chemical based monoculture to biodiverse ecological system, meaning to say natural way of growing the seeds which is nourished by the natural sunlight and the soil where no chemicals are used. And here she says biodiversity has been my teacher of abundance and freedom, of cooperation and mutual giving. So she believes that if you give your best to the environment, your best to the nature, it will always return back by giving you good quality of production, good quality of food grains. So here she says biodiversity has been her teacher of abundance and freedom, of cooperation as well as mutual giving. So with this we have come to the conclusion of the third element, beyond monoculture. So in beyond monoculture, first, she says that her life mission is to uh, save biodiversity and biodiversity based living economies. That is what she learned from the CHIPCO. And she says that we have to go beyond just monoculture way of growing crops. Then she says that she's addressed the problem of understanding biodiversity in her book Monocultures of Mind, where she says the problem of this is at the root of the impoverishment of nature and culture, meaning to say that there is very poor quality of productiveness, poor quality in nature as well as culture. That is the problem of not understanding biodiversity. And then she says whatever lessons which she's learned from the biodiversity in the Himalayan forest, she's transferred that for the protection of the environment in her farm. That is when she started her farm called as the Navadanya farm in 1994 in Doon Valley, where in this farm she has started saving different variety of seeds. And here she says that today she is successful in conserving and growing varieties of rice, wheat, and hundreds of other uh, species are also involved in her farm. And then she says that she has been practicing and promoting biodiversity intensive form of farming that produces more food and nutrition per acre, which is also the answer to the food and nutrition crisis. Then she says that when nature is a teacher, we co create with her, we co learn with her. And she says Navadanya, the movement for biodiversity, conservation, and organic farm, which started in 1987, it's spreading across, and she successfully been able to establish 100 community seed banks all across India, and she's saved more than 3,000 varieties of rice. And then she's helped the farmers to make a transition from fossil fuels and chemical based monoculture to biodiversity, ecological system nourished by sun and soil. And she says that biodiversity has been her teacher of abundance and freedom, of cooperation and mutual giving. So, with this, we conclude this third element, going beyond monoculture and the lessons learned from the Chipko.